how just their builds work. So let's see what this Terran brings out in the bottom left. In red, from Team Liquid, he is uThermal.
And in the top right-hand side of the map, the blue Zerg player playing for no team Sadkek. It is Lambo. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a banger, Nate.
Oh yeah, a banger indeed, cats. As I think Everdream is a pretty, I don't know, how do you feel when you play against Terran on this map? I'm very like 50-50 on this. There's not as much airspace to hide stuff on behind like the main, so I'm like, you know, it's not as easy as some of the other maps to do my harass type styles. But what are your thoughts on this, like defensively even?
Yeah, I mean, there's space for the Raven, or you know, something like a Liberator or something of the sort also right here, and also down by between the natural and the third. So there's a couple of annoying spots, and I think tank pushes can be really strong if they make use of the sides of the map, and onto the potential fourth with the Ridge Vesping Geyser. But Zerg has options. You can take that base or you can take a different one. I really like it. I like the map.
Yeah, I think the last time that you and I were casting a Zerg on this, we had Bly taking that forward gold base against, was it Clem, I think, and it didn't go over very well. That high ground kind of ended up being a problem. So it's not really, you know, I don't think that we would have expected to see Lambo do anything weird with that.
No. Maybe as a fourth.
Yeah. The SCV Scout is going out. One thing that's interesting to point out, uThermal going for the really fast reactor without any Marines or a Reaper, and he's just going to build straight Marines out of it. So he's like, okay, if I SCV Scout and I see that the hatchery timing is fine, I'm not really worried about anything, and he's going to have enough Marines to deal with like a couple Zergling poke. And maybe he'll try to catch an Overlord out, like if his SCV sees anything that he could grab. It's a bit odd actually to not go for any Reapers at all. I've not seen an opening like this in quite a bit.
Yeah, but think about it. What does the Reaper accomplish these days, right? Like we're talking about like how Zerg players at a high level, it's surprising if they lose a Zergling. And I mean, scouting wise, I think that the SCV did a lot of what the Reaper looks to do. If you're assuming that your opponent, if your opponent's not Bly, chances are you know what's behind this, right? More often than not, Reaper or not. So you forfeit or forego the denying the creeps for a little bit earlier, but potentially pick yourself an Overlord. I'm actually surprised. Maybe he could have pushed out for that Overlord further out there, and set up for whatever you're doing, right? The Reaper's not a cheap unit.
Yeah, maybe he wants to do. I can think of one reason why you would do something like this, because he's building one Marine at a time. Maybe he's just going to go for like an armory and do like a Marine, like drop the Marines and then run all the Hellions across and do like a little Marine Hellbat push. That's one of the stronger, I think, Hellbat timings that we've seen that can actually kill Zerg player. Just having the Marines to pepper in that extra damage really helps deal with the Queens and the Zerglings if the Hellbats don't kill them all in one big shot together.
Yeah, but this is a Lambo special, though. He is one of the very few players that will consistently go for Overlord speed and really values this scouting. So let's see what he's able to accomplish with it. I'm not sure if he saw what he was looking for, but we have another Overlord poking into the natural, and it should confirm the number of Marines, the Hellions, the Reactor, and the Factory. And he has to imagine that there's potential for some medevac Marine Hellbat attack.
Yeah, what's really interesting about this is, as you pointed out, seeing the number of Marines can give a bit of information too, right? He might think, oh, well, he's going to do a big Marine attack, but he didn't see the fusion core that's building at the bottom of the mineral line. And the other side effect of this strategy might have been that he just wanted to be able to deny that scouting too. Look, he's even going to go for this Overlord. He doesn't want him to know what he's up to. He's willing to delay his own push just to deny the information from Lambo. And if you're Lambo, you got to be thinking to yourself, like, why would he stop his own big attack just to do that? And it's a fake Hellbat push. He wants him to think it. Look how many Lings he's building.
He is building quite a few Links indeed, Nate, and this is not what Lambo wants to be doing. You talked about Terrans having a little bit more or a little bit of an edge in deciding their builds, and that's often because they are the aggressor. We're seeing this from uThermal, right? You have to adapt as the Zerg. You don't know what the Terran's going to be aggressive with, so you can't prepare as well as they can in that sense. And here come the Hellions. We'll snipe a few drones, but yeah, this is all a fake.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, as a Zerg player, when you see something like this with like, I mean, since the medevac isn't moving, maybe it's a little more clear now, but like you got to be thinking that he could turn the Hellions into Hellbats and bring it all together at any time, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I would have thought. I mean, Often as a player in general, I think you'll be most immediately concerned with the immediate dangers of what you see, right? And from what he saw, I pieced together most likely a Hellbat attack. So at the same time, this did nothing though, or very little at least. And he lost it all before the battlecruiser kicks in. So I don't know. Lambo might just be okay. He sees the fusion core now too.
Yeah, he's got the spore crawlers going up. He's adding a couple of extra queens, and I think what you just mentioned is also really important. Like, a lot of these Hellions are very weak. We have 3 of them with like sub 20 health. So the battlecruiser can yeet itself in, but there's gonna be 4 queens waiting for it. I mean, all he can really do is maybe try to kill that building tumor and get away, but I don't think he's gonna be able to kill any of the queens over here. There's quite a bit of energy for transfuse available.
Oh, that's rough too. He was for a second considering it. Looked like walking the battlecruiser, instead decides to go for the TP. Maybe he thinks he didn't get enough from his early pokes, and he really didn't. And look at this, Lambo is just going to continue to spread creep, and this is a wonderful start for the German.
Yeah, I love everything over here for Lambo. We talked about how like maybe he would have been tricked into thinking it was a different type of push, but the way that he responded to it, yeah, he got the Baneling nest, but he didn't make a bunch of Banelings, cats. He didn't overcommit to it. He had just enough Zerglings to deal with everything, and now he's had a pretty healthy drone count that whole time. It was like 52 versus 38 workers for a while because uThermal cut his SCV production. So now that he's gotten back into it, he still maintains a nice healthy lead, and it looks like he's going to go into that Hydra Ling Bane, possibly Lurkers down the line. Very good style that you can take map control with that Ling Bane.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Nate. I think that that Lambo was very, very good at not morphing those Banelings, at not being overly ready. I would have definitely panicked and morphed some Banelings, or at least made a spine or something. He adds the Baneling nest, like you said, kind of early, but that's little cost. I mean, for how successful he was at shutting down the attack.
Oh yeah, so not having to burn Banelings there is really nice, because that's what gives you all the rest of the gas to get that lair, get this 1/1, and now Bane speed is ready, and the 4th base doesn't have a ton of creep next to it. I guess, do you like taking that 4th? It's a little bit harder to have the creep out here for it, right, compared to some of the other bases? Yeah,
I personally like the triangle with the main and the natural a little bit better usually. But and he has creep spread there, but it can be sieged if you don't have creep spread there. So that's I can understand either. I mean, they all have their disadvantages, all of these bases. And their pros.
Clear some creep.
What a guy.
Yeah.
And see, if there was a 4th, if the 4th was there and the battlecruiser just did that clearing creep, I'd be like, I don't know how I feel about this 4th anymore.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I was talking about the creep and he immediately gets rid of it. It's like, weirdly enough, battlecruisers are actually one of the best creep clearing units, because you just kind of drag 1 or 2 of them over all of it, just scan, and they all die. Not having to do all the target firing and whatnot is pretty nice for that. So at least he's trying to get some value out of it. But for 400 minerals and 300 gas, this BC really has not quite proved its value just yet. Very expensive delay to all of the other tech, and of course that means it's going to be even more time before uThermal can actually make that big ground push. But that creep is spreading. It is spreading pretty damn quick, Cat.
Definitely, it really is. It's looking so scary for uThermal. It's going to be very difficult to move out onto the map. It feels like he has to win a fight just to move out onto the map, and then he has to somehow have enough of an army to continue to push against a potential counter or a potential remax from Lambo. It feels, look at where he's sieging, right? It's almost so like he's sieging defensively, but he's pushing out.
Yeah, no, I mean, this siege tank push is going to be one of the most drawn out pushes we've seen in the entire tournament if he actually makes it to that base. But I have a feeling as this Zergling count approaches 75 and we get a ton of Lings out, he's going to get that big surround before the reinforcements can get there. There is a big wave coming over to assist. We got like another 20 Marines, couple tanks, even the BC is going to join the fun. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult to dislodge this for Lambo if he doesn't jump on it now. But even still, he's got so many forces and so much creep. I don't even know if this is 100% enough to actually break this with 24 Banes.
Lambo is holding his creep as if he's holding a base behind it. And it's awesome to see. He continues to push out creep as soon as it gets cleared. I mean, it's so difficult because it basically buys you a remax, right? If you lose this army, there's so much time for your opponent to waste clearing the rest of the creep to get to your bases that it might be just okay anyway.
Yeah, look at the way he's got the queens there too. Every time that he scans and kills the tumors, he drops 1 or 2 more. He doesn't use all of the queen energy immediately. He's he's basically like, I'm going to trade my energy versus your energy, except obviously, the queen energy is not going to be as usually as impactful as mules, right? So this is also affecting uThermal's economy, and he's not quite as rich as he was
for Lambo, by the way. I'm not sure if he wants to do something with it, like try to dislodge that attack, but 2-2 Kerrigan is about to tell him. And but he also has adrenal glands on the way, so he might want to wait for that.
I mean, I think you said it best, Cats. He's not really even defending a base though. He's just defending like this random valley. He's like, oh yeah, we're watching over Stone Park or something like that, or the Zerg Hill.
Green Hill Zone. Vipers. Yeah, still he wants to trade at some point. So here we go. It's gonna be super awkward. I've never seen this area of the map so heavily contested before, but it's what we have going here. And Lambo looks like he's gonna get mostly cleaned up, but this is perfect for him.
Yeah, I think that's definitely went a little bit better. I think the hardest part there for Lambo, and he still has that massive supply lead and that big remax that you were talking about. The Banelings were kind of on the side where the tanks were, even though they were blinding clouded. So some of them did run into the tanks instead of the Marines, and it was good positioning by uThermal. But he does need to be very cautious because this next wave of forces, there's going to be a lot less to save him if he doesn't kill this hatch.
Yeah, and even if he does kill that hatch, actually, I'm very surprised that Lambo doesn't have 1 or 2 extra hatcheries out on the map already, in case, this ended up happening, or in case he just wanted to saturate further. But it looks like it's not going to matter if Lambo is going to save that hatchery. Still, he dropped the hatchery behind it just to make sure that he had somewhere to retreat. Amazing game, complete control of it by the German player, Lambo, and he will take the 1-0.
GG, that's a super well played game. And I think I want to echo your point that you said again earlier, is that he was holding that random space the same way that you would normally hold a base. And when you can't clean up the push, when you go for that big surround and it doesn't work, usually you'd lose the base because that's where the siege is, right? The right outside your 4th or the right outside your 3rd. But in this case, he was right outside Green Hill Zone level 2 or something. And instead of being able to kill the base, all he could do is advance forward a little bit. And Lambo already had that remax ready to go. So just a really good map awareness by him to know to hold that position and stall it out as well as he did. Just a really good game 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And last time we saw these 2 players wasn't too long ago. And last time they played, they were actually pretty evenly matched. But I thought that Lambo had advantages in most games that he lost. And I thought the ways that he lost was really uncharacteristic, like taking fights off of creep over and over again. This time we saw the opposite of that, like very good composure, very good patience. I was even questioning at that point, like, what is he waiting for to move in? Because at some point you want to trade if you're Lambo, right? Because you have the bank and you want to trade your units and continue to do the same thing, essentially, because you assume that you have more map control and better economy than your opponent. So, yeah, really well done by him.
Yeah, and uThermal was grabbing a couple of extra command centers behind that too. So if this push works out for him and he's able to get that base kill and then retreat and, keep at least like 160 supply of that army alive, then, things can turn around pretty quickly for him as well. But I guess at that point, I'd also throw in just really good tech transitions. He made that defense happen while getting out. Like he had chitinous plating at the end of that game, and he had ultralisks on the way too. So it's not like he wasn't ready for something else to be able to come out and punish like that high marine count, for example. And it looks like the next map's going to be Golden Wall, Cats.
All right. Now we saw actually uThermal take this map last time these 2 faced off against each other. But again, Lambo had a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes, and we had a macro game much like last one, only it was kind of like more of a split. How do you feel about this map as a Terran player, Nate?
This map makes me feel so uncomfortable. I always have the weirdest games here. I feel like I think that like the whole Golden Wall aspect of it is like greatly favored for Terran for making pushes across those gaps and being able to deny stuff like the gold minerals. But I mean, Lambo has kind of shown that he's a player who will take advantage of it too, though. In his ZVZ, this was one of the decisive maps. Actually was the decisive map where he beat Serral. So I feel like he's actually got a pretty good grip on it, and it makes it kind of hard for me to tell who can actually benefit more from it. But we'll have to see. We're loaded in the bottom left. We've got the red Terran player from Team Liquid. He is uThermal.
And on the right-hand side, it is from no team Satkek Lambo.
That question gets me though, Cats, because this is actually one of those maps I really like, but I just don't win very often on. Like sometimes you're like, I enjoy that games on this map are usually wild and crazy and weird stuff happens that happens on like no other maps. But at the same time, like I don't handle those situations personally very well. I'm just kind of like, yeah, that was a fun game. I lost, but like, at least I had a good time type thing. So it is tricky. If he wants to go for the battle cruiser rush though, there's a million reasons why that's good on this map. You have an insane amount of space to attack from the air that you can't really be chased by the queens, and you can't really cover very well with the spores. You can go all the way around that main, as our wonderful observer is showing us. And he's been doing an absolutely fantastic job this whole tournament, man. Good job. So that's the type of stuff that you got to think about on Golden Wall. Like I said, if Lambo's not Bly, so I don't think he has like a cheese prepared here, but if he thinks that he can pull some cute trick by mining out one of those middle mineral patches, then I think he will go for it. And that's what makes him a fun player to watch, because he doesn't just do what everybody else does.
Definitely. And I think uThermal is very likely to take the gold on this map as well, Nate. I feel like that's a lot easier to defend for Terran than it is for Zerg, just because Terran, has early access to the medevacs or whatever air unit they choose to make. And there's very little to punish on the side of Zerg unless you go for something like, something really weird like burrowed infestors, right? And just fungal the mineral line from behind. Like that's something that you can definitely do, but that people don't really have in their play, in their toolkit. So they don't really use that. Roaches and Ravagers can sort of do the trick. But it's a huge commitment even then. So last time, I think that's how uThermal kind of got a hold of the game. Didn't really go for a timing off of it, but he kind of just, it's a strong start. So we'll see if he does that.
I think the best point that you just made there too is just the fact that Terran does not suffer again in high ground situations as much as the other races, because especially when you're playing bio, or even if you're playing mech, like you're almost always going to have either the BC there or something, or your medevacs are going to be there for bio, and you're not going to have to worry about going up ramps. Terran doesn't really worry about going up ramps for the most part, but that gold base, as you said, is very easy to defend, because you can't also put a unit on the other side of it to just like pick off SCVs that easily either.
Yes, indeed. Also because you have tanks and such. Good job by
tanks
Lambo.
Are also good units.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Good job by Lambo also dropping that third, because the Reaper tried to stop it, but Lambo had already snuck out a drone. That is something that is kind of difficult to remember even as a Zerg player sometimes. But, not for these guys.
So I think the first big thing we're going to want to see is what uThermal wants to do aggressively. It's going to be Cloak Banshees. So it kind of seen as like it can be a flimsy option. It can transition really well off speed if you can retain them. But I mean, I'd love your opinion on this, but I feel like the BC builds are really strong because it's just kind of easier to make it cost effective than it is for units like Banshees if you're not being like attacked early on. But I don't know, do you prefer to play versus a Terran who goes for Banshees versus BCs?
I think that Banshees can hit a little bit sooner than BCs. They can be pretty annoying. I don't know. It's very difficult to tell. Banshees, I don't know. I feel like I sometimes lose more to Banshees than I do to BCs, but I'm not sure why. I'm trying to think of why that would be, and I just can't. Do
you think the Queen range nerf affected it much?
I think it's just that they can one-shot stuff and like sit in the corners, so they poke in. It's very difficult to have a properly placed spore crawler, so they can always just poke in and snipe a drone on the corner when you're not watching and the likes of that. I think that's what gets me. The BC is more like, I'm here, this is my HP to leverage, how much damage can I do before it goes down too fast? Banshees are like, that's fair. I'm not here, you don't know where I am, and when I poke out,
you can't see me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. I hadn't really considered that as well. Like, it's kind of easier to kind of poke in and poke out, even if they do have the spore, because the Banshees.
Right, the BC would be teleporting in right now and be like, "Hey, everyone, pay attention to me." The Banshees like,
"Stop!" So the BC is like that guy at the party that just like kicks the door open and he's like, "Where's the drinks? Let's go."
Yep.
The Banshee's just kind of chilling in the corner. That's a good analogy. I like that. So we got the double engineering bay and 4 barracks being added. So it's going to be a bio follow-up again behind this. I feel like, man, versus these really good Zerg players, I know this is going to sound, I'm kind of outing myself here, but I feel like some of those like kind of OP mech builds can be a little bit easier to pull off when it's just really hard to play like straight up with the bio, with that how well guys like Lambo and Cyril and Rainer have been spreading their creep. It's so hard to make those pushes work.
Yeah, it really is. Quick shout out to the chat for the Rambo spam. It's pretty good. Spam this Rambo to help Lambo. I like it.
That's a high tier emote. That's a very high tier emote.
Very high tier. All right, here's the third that we were talking about, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible to punish a Terran player for taking this. And in a weird way, like Muta builds are better when the Terran takes this base. Like I guess because you can kind of bounce between the main and this mineral line with like that ground
annoying
clear.
High ground as well, right? Like the annoying high ground near the gold. Yeah, that's pretty.
But even then, like if you don't do damage with a first attack on the Mutas, then it's like, okay, now the Terran has like 2 missile turrets and your hopes and dreams are dead, right? So you got to really make it count. And he is going to get the Spires. So this looks like we're going to get some good old fashioned Ling Bane Muta versus some Marine tank.
Yeah, and I really like that he goes Ling Bane Muta on this map because there's so much ground to cover, especially as the game progresses. And roaches just don't do the map justice, right? Like you can't really, like Ling Bane Muta, you can kind of move. You can have a base number of Lings and Banelings set up somewhere. And if an attack too big shows up, you can move your entire army in time to kind of just deflect that attack. But roaches, no can do. They're not.
I love this position he takes. He uses the Overlord to drop the creep so that his queens can go drop like a ton of creep tumors. And this is going to give him so much more of a buffer now on this northeast hatchery when it finishes. Like, I just love that Lambo does stuff like this because he's, you know, you kind of recognize your biggest weakness on that base is that alleyway on the north end, the tasteless hallway. But he clears it up. He's got it defended. He's feeling good. Although the Banshee scouts the Spire, though, and he's got a double drop in his base.
It has not been spotted until now. I mean, he is reacting Lambo, but the pool might be under threat. I think he can take it.
Nice grab.
Nice grab. Though it is the kind of thing that, you know, like once it's remade, you don't really care that you ever lost it.
That's true. Unless he can do something else like in the immediate future with it.
Yeah, but Lambo made so many links before that.
Yeah, he's got a good amount. And he's just building drones. I thought he might go straight into the Mutas, but he gets another round of drones first too. He wants to keep that eco going.
Yes,
but now it's going to be starting to move out. He's almost got the whole open half of the map covered in creep.
Yeah, he really does. I think that uThermal needs to identify that and just kind of sit back and be okay with sitting back, take a fourth, maybe go and try to start conquering the bottom of the map. Oh, he's already building a CC. I'm curious about that positioning though. Is that for a PF? Or why is he building it?
Yeah, I feel like that is an odd spot. I do like what you said though about kind of expanding towards the bottom side. If you can take that base like below the main, it's a little bit easier to have like turrets and a PF defending that expansion, and it kind of makes it harder for the Mutas to fly towards your production. Which is one of the reasons why I like that base a lot, because I think that's one of the best advantages on this map if the Terran never goes down there, is that the Mutas could go try to grab an add-on or two and then go to the gold, and suddenly your Marines are stimming all the time and your medevacs have no energy while you're never able to actually attack too.
Look at uThermal actually being so sneaky with this medevac, but one thing that Lambo has not done this game, and I'm very surprised about, is he hasn't really taken vision, like overlords on that bottom half of the map. This is the next medevac that's going to go unspotted. The first two usually should give you a heads up and be like, should probably place overlord somewhere in the middle. Maybe he doesn't want to lose him, but I don't know.
That's an interesting point. He hasn't been building Vikings either, honestly. These Hellbats are going to soak up a lot of damage to keep the Marines alive, and he clears out some Ling Bane, but there's plenty more Ling Bane to go around, Paolo. Let's see if these Zerglings can this Marine drop can buy some time for uThermal to get through the creep spread. He's denying a little bit of the mining of that extractor. He's going to deny a couple of the building Banelings and gets rid of a good chunk of the creep. But he's got to get to a base. He's got to get some damage in.
Yeah, very good target firing with those Banelings. I mean, he's going to push the creep back, and if he can take this, I think that's a pretty decent win for Lambo, for uThermal, who just established his fourth base as well, Nate. He didn't go for the bottom bases. He went for contesting the top. At the same time, nice pokes with his Banshees, who have been annoying through and through the entire game. They have up to 11 kills now combined.
Yeah, you know, for a guy with 16 mutas, that mine does take one. For a guy with 15 mutas, the fact that these Banshees have been able to still kind of poke and prod really says a lot, because it seems like Lambo's concern is that if he sends those mutas to go on a wild goose chase for Banshees, he may end up taking a lot of damage from those Marines, but instead he wants to go poke that planetary. There are a few mines, but there's a couple building command centers. He can deny a lot here if he can get to uThermal space without taking a counter.
Oh, what a mine. Wow.
He just get 29 kills. That's 29 kills in that Widow mine.
Wow, that was the biggest debate. And the only way to make that worse is if you send Banelings, right? But But yeah, I mean, Lynx will clump up as best as possible. That's crazy. And these patches are still doing work somehow.
This small, very small part of the army is going to get grabbed. That Hellbat is like, oh my god, I've seen some terrible things. Loads of drop in the bottom right. But those mutas denied one of the command centers. They weren't really able to get onto the planetary itself. So uThermal's economy is looking pretty fantastic, Cats. He's got the Thor here to help.
The Lynx, hello?
Away.
Oh no, and all those Lynx didn't realize they were moved onto their death. But there's a huge flank on the side of Lambo. Will force a pickup onto the high ground, daring by uThermal. Very nice job. Now Lambo's gonna have to go all the way around before re-engaging this. And yes, he's gonna get cleaned up. But is he gonna get cleaned up? I mean, is he gonna get cleaned up?
We're watching StarCraft 2 hopscotch over here, Cats. He's jumping between the squares. Somehow those Marines in the main base have still been getting that damage in, and Lambo maybe now regretting, as you were pointing out earlier, not having that vision on the bottom side of the map. There's been no Vikings. There's not been really much to deny him from being able to get that vision.
That's the third drop. So there's gotta be something happening there soon. I'll be looking out for overlords on that side, but they've got to happen. I've seen them do them before. He has some overlords very close to his base, but that's such a short heads up.
Yeah, I do like that he's kind of made the move for this game back into the Widow Mines as well. Not only good versus the mutas, but I feel like,
no.
Okay, those Banelings were...
Yeah, wow. They were not meant to be there. Good job by uThermal. These mines, I love them as well. Look at that. Look at the line, the trail of mines for the Marines to run back to.
Oh, it's another one on the mutas too, softening them all up. And he's coming in from the backside with a little bit of a Zergling Baneling flank too.
Yeah, that's actually really, really nice from Lambo. The 360s around will do the trick. At the same time, uThermal sieging one of the few remaining bases for Lambo. This is the important thing. It's that's his fourth, and his main is under siege as well. So while this looks decent for Lambo, the cleanup, he needed more than that, I think.
And another drop on the bottom. uThermal takes game number 2.
Yeah.
That drop on the bottom, you pointed it out very early on, Cats, and the only thing that I can really do analysis-wise for this game was point out that he just continued to attack that one very vulnerable position, and Lambo was never able to lock it down. And I think that created a lot of opportunities for everything else that uThermal did in this game. Really well played.
Yeah, I mean, uThermal really doing great, right? I mean, with the Banshees being so annoying, like you said, even with the mutas, just being sneaky, hiding them all the time, and forcing so many actions from his opponent that Lambo maybe didn't have time to really evaluate what he should be doing, like spreading overlords on the bottom half. That was 4 drops that went by unannounced. Yeah, maybe a little bit too stuck on the last game where he was holding for that creep positioning, and he made that the focus of his game yet again. But there were other problems to fix this time around.
Yeah, game got pretty messy. I think one of the biggest things pointing out was just taking good advantage of the map for uThermal. When we talk about what makes that map really good for Terran, and I do think it's a good Terran map, just that gold when you're playing bio, right? Marine printer go brrr when you've got gold minerals in that situation, and he wasn't able to deny that 4th base either. He lost a lot of random mutalisks early, so he's gonna have to tighten things up. Death Aura, we're gonna be on a big map with a lot of space, especially for those air units. So hopefully we've got a little bit of better cell coverage for those overlords to give that vision back.
All righty, we'll see if that's the case. There are also speed zones on this map, by the way, Nick.
Oh boy. You gotta go fast.
Yeah, I've seen them once now be used. I don't know if you missed the disruptor shot. There was a disruptor shot that used the speed zone. It was crazy.
Yeah, there was the two disruptors. I think there was a 2 disruptor play from, I don't know if you're talking about the same one, but
maybe there's
that Gerald did versus Hero Marine yesterday. Yeah, he went for a disruptor flank, and he used the speed zone to just to go for the flank around and try to hit from the back. It did not work. Both disruptors instantly died. Hero Marine won like 30 seconds later, but it was cool to watch. It was cool to watch.
Alrighty. In the top left-hand side, tying the series up 1-1, it is Liquid's uThermal. Thermi.
And his opponent in the bottom right, repping that beautiful Keck face on his hatchery, he is Lambo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they brought the Rambo music out for him.
Nice.
And again, I don't think I've seen that movie since I was 7. I don't remember what the soundtrack was like.
Probably something like that. Yeah, I like it. I mean, we've seen 2 games now, one dominant from Lambo, one dominant from uThermal, I would say. They both were kind of macro games, but it never looked like for either player in their respective winning game, like they were in much trouble, really.
No, it was pretty back and forth, really. I felt like if it weren't for all those drops in the main base that just kept picking off drones and kind of resetting some of the tech stuff, I feel like without that, the game probably goes on for like maybe another like 5 to 10 minutes, really, because all the other fights that were out on the map weren't that bad, other than the one where he got to lift all the units up the cliff. And that really just goes back to Golden Wall being a really good Terran map against Zerg, especially when you want to play bio. Like you get to expand towards your opponent, you get a ton of extra money. All of those things work well with rallying Marines across the field. So Death Aura is going to be a little bit more back to normal. The speed zones don't really have too much of an impact in like big games from what we've seen. At least from what I've been able to cast and see on this map, it still hasn't been like, no one's built a strategy around using them, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I mean, here's a thought, Nate. What about Corruptors instead of Muta? Yeah, on that map, they're going to be a little bit slower, right, to get to everywhere that they need to go. But they're so much better on those little cliffs because they can continue to shoot at the medevacs very easily without overexposing, where the Mutas kind of struggle. And I find if the Mutas are playing defensive and you're not really looking to apply counter pressure, they kind of lose a little bit of their value as well. So
that's a really good point.
An option.
Oh, that's a really good point with that range and just the access to the buildings, right? Could have maybe used the caustic spray if there was no missile turrets, right? On like the main for an add-on or the third base command center. I feel like every time I try to say Corruptors could be good in a place, like someone's like, oh, here's evidence that shows like someone just tried this and it worked terribly, but I like it. Look how fast his third CC is, by the way, from uThermal. He's delaying that third starport. He's getting delaying the starport and any other gas to get this up. Really, really greedy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what Mutas have over Corruptors is speed, and they have the ability to harass a little bit better, right? But we didn't see any harassment, is my point. Like, and I'm not blaming Lambo for that. I think his Muta needed to stay defensively anyway. But what Corruptors have on Muta is, range, and you have to micro less as well. You can just move the medevacs, and they'll do their job, and they're tankier against Marines.
Yeah, very tanky, very tanky. That's a good point. They'd be able to they don't die in one shot to Widow Mines either, I guess is also worth throwing into consideration. So Lambo does not really strike me, especially these days, as like the guy that goes for these big all-ins and whatnot. So maybe uThermal's adjustment in this map is he's just like, because look at this. He went for a very late second gas, stupidly fast third command center, but he's still going for a battlecruiser rush. Like, If you're a ladder Zerg who likes to do like those Roach or Roach Ling pushes, or like the Ravager Ling rush, like this is what you dream of, right? You want to play Terrans that do this every game, and you're never gonna lose, right? Like you're so vulnerable and have so little to defend, but he's just really banking on the fact that Lambo is taking this too seriously and isn't gonna risk going down to match point off the back of a failed all-in.
Yeah, he also had a very nice Reaper scout through and through, so that's pretty decent. But yeah, I mean, Lambo's not the player to do that kind of thing very often either. Though he is the kind of player that would do that reactively. Though I've seen him more reactive in his CVP than in his CVT personally.
Well, he's going to have a good amount of queens regardless when this battlecruiser does arrive. I think worth also pointing out, as you mentioned before, he does like the Overlord speed, but we don't see it this game. He's actually not gone for it to get that quick scout. So he had a faster lair instead. But even then, he hasn't built like an Overseer across the map to get that scouting information. So he's also just kind of banking that what he has right now is going to be enough to defend. And since he's going for that Spire and he's already got Spores, I think he should be, for the most part, okay.
Yeah, he just added a couple Spores as you were talking about it. So yeah, I think he's basically just expecting generally that it could be BCs or Banshees. It's very difficult to expect that the Terran player won't make anything from the starport. So, you know, if you're blind, you kind of just make Spores.
Who never... What Terran doesn't build a starport versus Zerg? Like, what kind of insanity is that, right? You're like reading some weird ancient hieroglyphic build orders I have no idea, but yeah, that is the way the game is played. And you know what? Quite risky. The Spire is about to finish, Cats. So the battlecruiser is here, but if he doesn't hightail it straight out, it is possible that Lambo could try to invest into something to punish this. If he doesn't get the BC kill, it would really, really suck. But at the same time, there's opportunity because battlecruisers they're a bit too thick to get home without that teleport.
They are pretty thick. And, you know, Nate, I like that it looks like uThermal's going mech. It's still kind of unclear what type of mech he's going. Do you have any insights into what it might be from his setup? Can we look at uThermal's base, perhaps, for a sec? He has
the biggest thing that stands out to me is because he went for battlecruiser. Yeah, so there's Magfield Accelerator, which starts up. But whenever you go for a BC opening, especially seeing that Spire, like your number one fear, because battlecruisers can kill a lot, and the Hellions can deal with a lot of Zerglings, especially when you have the second BC out, like Roaches and Ravagers aren't as scary. So your primary fear is whatever comes from the Spire. And the only thing that's going to save you against fast Corruptors or Mutas, well, BCs can kind of fight the Mutas with a pair, but the only thing that's going to save you from fast Corruptors is usually Cyclones. So I expect to see a bit of the battle mech. I do find it interesting that he's getting Widow Mines too. He's possibly hoping to get a little bit more value from those to kill the early Mutalisks and reset.
Do you find Thors are too slow against Corruptors?
Oh yeah, no, I would never recommend building Thors like this early in the game. I feel like that can be a trap to fall under because then you just don't have what you need to actually do the proper harass. Because the big issue is if you don't have the Cyclones, the Hellions can't really do as much because then the Mutas start to bully those back.
Right.
There's not a tremendous amount of Mutas, but like you don't want to just let your Hellions die. They don't shoot up.
Yeah, most definitely. There's going to be 2 BCs crossing the map as well from uThermal, and he's continuing to add a third that he might teleport in for the further attack.
That's not a wall.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's kind of a blessing in disguise that it's not a wall and he gets stalled by that one Zergling instead of by a bigger amount.
I'd rather one Ling slip through than 30.
Yep.
Look how fast he's getting missile turret range, by the way. Oh man, it's like watching one of my games. I love it. It really messes with the muscle memory for the Zerg players, I feel like, because they think they know where they can go to like pick units off, but then all of a sudden the turrets are shooting them anyway.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. So that'll cost units for sure on the retreat because every pro player is trying to play with the boundaries of the units as best as they can, right? To squeeze as much as possible pretty often. So that is a great point to make.
Who gets missile turret range at 8 minutes?
No one.
Nobody. No one does that. But I love it. It is good. It is a good thing to have. Considering how many Mutas are being made, it's actually a fantastic investment. Hope he gets building armor next. Those armories are starting up too. He wouldn't have been able to get Thors if he wanted. The armories are only just now coming in. But if he gets overwhelmed by these Mutas, it could get awkward pretty fast. I don't know. This is kind of an interesting game. Like Lingbane Muta versus mech, right? But it's not normal mech. It's not like your normal turtle slow mech. He's playing with battle cruisers and cyclones and Hellions.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, I have some numbers in my head. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if they still apply even, but I usually think if I have something like 14 Mutas, I can engage a turret and they won't be able to repair it. So changing the dynamics of that as well, right? Like how many units you have and what you're comfortable diving with, though this is probably too many Mutas if he decides to dive anything.
Seeing that many Mutas, yeah, now he starts the Thors. Because the thing is, like, for the most part, if the Zerg player doesn't go above like 20 of them, then it's really not that hard for Cyclones with a couple of missile turret support to bully these back. And you can do a lot of really, good micro because Cyclones are not that bad versus Mutas.
Lambo's setting up for a big attack as well.
Yeah, see, this is just way too much though, unless those mines get massive hits. And they actually kind of do. But are there enough units left over? The battlecruisers are going to teleport home to try and defend against this while the Cyclones continue to use their lock-ons. But at the same time, the Planetary actually manages to blow up the rest of the Banes, so the base is safe. And Cats, we were at 27 Mutas. There are still 22 on the map, so he hasn't lost too much, but it could be, it could actually take the wind out of his sails to make this next push happen. Does he have enough units to stop the Baneling swarm that's about to crack that third open?
Yeah, I mean, now the battle cruisers have consolidated, and we saw as soon as he got spotted, he kind of just went for it, morph Banes, and went for it. So this was a little bit of a surprise attack, hoping to maybe catch his opponent without those Thors or with the battle cruisers off position. He's kind of able to do that, but not able to capitalize enough. And now he has a lot of Muta that are going to be very difficult to squeeze value out of, I think.
Yeah, and you know what? Lambo's been doing a really good job of moving around and trying to find the poke and prod. But I have to say, big credit to uThermal. I think he actually just blew up a little bit of that wall, but did not lose SCVs. His army was able to save the workers. He still got his third base mining. I noticed that a couple of those supply depots were gone, but he's done a solid job of not taking damage from this. And then you can see that missile turret helping to push just a little bit, but he needs a little bit more than that to make the defense happen. One of the refineries is going to get grabbed. A few more Lings do slip to that third base, but the battle cruisers say, we got you. It's all good.
Yeah, and the battlecruisers are such a strong force. Those four can really hold against anything that Lambo has right now. I mean, you can throw your entire army at those four battlecruisers, and you know they'll win in time.
Near
so
kill everything.
Yeah, you gotta be. Oh! I like this move though. Going for the Banelings, and that's gonna reset that's some move from Lambo. Now this might trigger a counter attack, but I really like it. It's the first move that seems to have been effective from him.
Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic. Because the thing is, he's going to tunnel vision possibly on that gold gas base that Lambo's been trying to get a few times now. But the mutas are going to say, hey, you need to bring your army back home, while he builds 37 Banelings to add on to this. Like, Lambo's got bases on both sides.
The battle cruisers are the main concern for me. 5 battle cruisers. I'm not sure that there's much on the side of Lambo that can even attempt to answer this. There's not many spores. You would like to see panic spores at this point, because that's 5 of them. I mean, the mutas are not going to do enough.
Yeah, there's only 3 corruptors on the field, and those are not going to have the damage up necessary to kill everything. All the mutalisks are going to focus on the BCs, though. One of them does get picked off as the Banelings just stream through, trying to splash onto everything. Yeah, he's going to Yamato the corruptors, but I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be enough. Another one of the BCs does to go down, and it's just BCs versus mutas with some queen support, cats. But he gets rid of them. He actually killed all the mutas.
Very impressive hold from Lambo, in my opinion. I mean, it was pretty much the only way to make it happen was to throw his army at the ground army while it was off position, so that no Thors or one Thor could really only help the battle cruisers, and then the muta engage onto them. And he's able to clean up. I mean, this is perfect from him. I think the supplies are still fairly even, and the battle cruisers are still technically alive, but this looks...
He tries to pull the SCVs using the refinery to mineral walk away, but he does get picked off. And actually, I think another one of the battle cruisers did die, so he's only got 2 left as the Shredder remains there. Oh, by the way, Banelings just hit the third base too. So all of a sudden, we do a huge swing for uThermal, dropping so much supply in that push, and now losing the majority of his economy as well. Absolutely brutal attack, counterplay, and harassed by Lambo while making that defense happen.
Yeah, he was so well set up for it too, for the run-by, but it's that those Banelings that really trigger the whole push from uThermal, right? Because uThermal hasn't really gotten a chance to establish that much of an economy, so it's a really hurtful base for him to lose at that point. And it was a very expensive push from Lambo, but it was Lambo planning ahead and saying, I can remax after this. It was still scary though, I mean.
Yeah, well, that's terrifying. I mean, if somehow that fight ends and all 5 battle cruisers are alive, like as Lambo, you're just, what the hell are you going to do then? You're going to build 30 corruptors and then not have any units at all to counterattack with or get out on the map? But that's not the case here. Even these Hellions really aren't as effective anymore because there's just so many Lings. This is where you really want that transformation servos upgrade, and he actually has just started it now to be able to turn those Hellions into Hellbats a little bit faster. But now you're so committed to trying to build like this Thor army, because that's really like the ultimate end game for Terran versus Zerg. Like if you get like 10 Thors plus Hellions and Liberators or whatever, really, it's almost impossible to die. But now he's going into the Roaches. He's going to bring out the Ravagers. Those are going to be able to play well against those types of units. And I am actually kind of surprised that uThermal is starting to mix siege tanks in. They are going to be very useful against this army comp, but it's also going to slow him down and make it harder to move out again.
Yeah, I like the Ravager addition. I would love to see Infestors with Neuroparasite. Personally, that's my go-to against Thors. It looks like there's a lot of Corruptors here. No Greater Spire, but there is a Hive in transition. So I think this is just mostly for battle cruisers.
Yeah, and I don't mind that. We do have a good Hellion attack over on the Rich Vespine base. Both of those geysers are Rich Vespine geysers, by the way. So you're getting the income of 2 bases worth of gas basically from this base. Of course, the total number of gas is the same as a normal base, but you're just going to mine it twice as fast. So that really helps push forward that economy for Lambo.
Yeah, huge fan. I mean, he's gonna make use of it too. He knows what he's doing. You know, like he's getting the Ravagers to make use of that gas. He's getting the Pathogen Glands to make use of that gas. So he anticipates that he's gonna have an overflow on gas of gas, and he's trying to make the best use of it. I mean, it's perfect. Those Ravagers are so expensive.
I love it. He's done a really good job of balancing out his economy. And at the same time, uThermal still built up a powerful force. Like 5 Thors, 14 siege tanks, 3 battle cruisers, nothing to scoff at. And even these drones trying to run away, the Hellions are going to be able to chase them pretty easily because he has transformation servos. So the extra workers are not going to be able to really get away from this base. It's there you go. There's your late 4th of July barbecue for you, Lambo. And as he's able to take this position, there's still a lot of Banelings, there's still a lot of Ravagers. He got pathogen glands too, so he could start going into the infestors. I don't think he has neural parasite yet, though.
It's so difficult to do, yeah. When the army's knocking at your door, a nice attempt, but it's gonna get spotted way early, and it's not gonna end up doing much. All right, Lambo engaging with a lot of the Banelings. A lot of the army is actually clumped up. It doesn't matter if they're fat. They're still, you know, if you're clumped up, you still take so much damage from the Banelings. So really well done by Lambo. I think. Go on.
Yeah, no, it's just a really good job. I was going to say, I think that like as long as your Banelings are hitting 3 units, it doesn't matter like what they are. It's almost always cost effective in a big fight like that. Like as long as you're not letting 1 Thor tank 16 Banes, you know, 16 Banes could kill 3 Thors next to each other. So he does pick off the BCs here. Battle cruisers are terrible defensively in this situation. So they are all off the map. And that means that those air units are going to become even more of an issue to deal with.
Yeah, but uThermal not dropping the ball on the harassment front either. And remember, he dropped so many CCs, and I love that play because he reset the mute account on his attack at the very least. Wow, look at him. He's so good. He's going to take down another base of Lambo. And yeah, I mean, his economy is getting set up really in a scary way.
That Northeast expansion cast, I think, is like the absolute, that's the anchor now for uThermal. Being able to secure that extra bit of economy while killing 31 drones. Just been such a scrappy game here between uThermal and Lambo. What a phenomenal match we're getting. The Ravager count is becoming more and more terrifying, though, as the army becomes more focused around the Thors and the Cyclones. It's important to keep in mind that as uThermal's economy gets stretched and he has to take bases that are further away, it's going to be harder to make transitions. And if he loses those Thors and goes too heavy into tanks, then we could see something like Broodlords come out. He's going to go for this counterattack, but I don't think there's anything here to save this planetary, Paolo. That's a lot of resources gone here for uThermal.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think you make a great point, Nate. As much as the Terran can get a fantastic economy, and we're seeing that from uThermal. I mean, he has 80 workers to the 60 of Lambo, more or less, and a lot more orbital commands. So.
There were a lot of drones next to Hellbats, and I got excited. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. But the remaxing potential for Terran is not as nearly as good as Zerg, especially when you're making these huge units that take a load of time to make, right? So if there is a good engagement from Lambo in a good position, the game could just end abruptly as well.
Yeah, I'd love to see him start getting like squeezing a few infestors in there, maybe get Burrow, even if he doesn't want the neural parasite yet, because you've seen a little bit of that gas floating start because of that rich Vespine base. Of course, as he takes other bases, right? If he gets the mineral count up, he can still spend it. But yeah, what a fascinating series we've had here. Now,
Yeah,
I will say,
he lost the 30 drones, so that's probably why he's struggling on that front. Not even mining the rich Vespine geyser feels bad.
yeah. I was gonna say, you know, the fact that he hasn't tried to do anything with the starport since then either. Like he's not gonna try to mix Banshees in. He's not trying to get Liberators. I think that's gonna make it even harder to deal with. Yeah, finally, there you go, Burrow and Neural Parasite. If Lambo gets a good amount of infestors and you don't have Liberators to help zone away, like he might even go for the Neural on the siege tanks themselves if there's no Liberators and just use those to try and blow up the Thors with the rest of the Ravagers. So it makes me pretty concerned. I think the tech is lining up really nicely for Lambo. If he can just keep his bases alive, that's really the hardest part right now.
Yeah, I look forward to see how sneaky he can be with those infestors. It's so important, and players don't do it enough. I think just be sneaky with the burrowed infestors, go where the Terran may not scan, is something that I really just don't see enough in pro play, and it's so very important. The infestors are by a landslide the best unit to deal with Thors with Neuroparasite. The Thor is the best unit in the game to Neuroparasite. Oh my god, this is gonna cost an army or a small army, but game positioning for uThermal to take down a base.
And he's gonna pick off this hatch, but Cats, it's certainly one of the least valuable hatcheries on the map. But that scan, he does see now. He sees the infestors. uThermal should be aware that this is going to be a risk. And that, like I said, it makes me nervous because his whole army is on the ground. So if it's just a big ground swarm and he doesn't have anything to fall back on, that's going to really hurt. And he actually gets the jump on a couple of these Thors in the northwest. 3 Thors deleted.
Yeah,
900 minerals, 600 gas, gone.
I mean, earlier we were watching and there was a Thor and like 2 more units killing a hatchery, and I was like, brilliant. And just now I caught myself saying, I don't know what they were doing there. But then, if we're gonna be fair, you know, it's that kind of thing that uThermal does, and it looks brilliant when it works. And sometimes, you know, it just doesn't work.
This game has been too back and forth to say whether any moves are like really good or bad. Yeah, it's like, well, you know, I don't know. Maybe that handful of resources he denied is gonna do it for him. I'm not sure. Every time I see the Thors die, though, I'm like, when's that Greater Spire gonna start? And here it is. It's, you know, the clock is gonna tick. If he goes too heavy into anything now, it's gonna be hard. It's hard to play with mass Thors versus this many Ravagers with the Infestors too. Like, yeah, I really like Lambo's army. Yeah,
like I was saying, I mean, if we look at the army values, the army value for Lambo is even a little bit higher right now, it seems. And,
it's a lot higher,
Thors,
yeah. Really sick.
Yeah, and Thors being neuroparasited are 1,000 resource swing because they lose 500, you gain 500 for the duration. So it's gigantic, you know, like if you neuroparasite 2 Thors, it's 1,000 resource gap, or to a 2,000 resource gap that you're creating further. So gotta be really careful if you're uThermal.
Yeah, and that's why I'm worried, man. Like, I really like seeing players use the Liberators and whatnot with that. He actually went and mind controlled just the one siege tank on its own so that it would not shoot the Ravagers, and then he biles it down. And every random unit there is going to be so useful. But uThermal very aggressively expanding. Like, they're kind of they've given up on taking those side bases, and now they're taking the other players' side bases, which I always find interesting, right? You've got that high ground to go off the gold gas base, so it does make sense that the next one you take is on the same level. But oh my god, look how big this army is, cats. I don't know how he's going to be able to stop this. No scans yet. Here come the Infestors. Assimilation successful.
Yeah, and there's really not much to stop these Infestors. I mean, those 4 Thors are a lot of money, and now they're killing each other. It really doesn't look too good for uThermal, and this is what we were talking about. Yes, he has a great setup, but if he can't remax, losing a huge army could lose him the game. A nice counterattack from him, trying to keep Lambo honest, but honestly, this is the least valuable base.
Yeah, he does have a good amount of Cyclones here, so he can kill a lot of the Roaches as they build. But, you know, at this point, as the rest of these units come home, he needs to be careful, because if he can't get those units out, it's going to be hard to replace them.
Yeah, were those units forced back?
Did he just kill like half of Lambo's Overlords, by the way? He's been like mega supply blocked after that fight. He's only got 142 cap available. He must have lost like 8 Overlords. Oh, the Greater Spire too. He's not going to be able to replace that.
Not without a hive. I mean, earlier we were talking the pool, for example, is not such a bad or not a great pickoff. But once the main tech structure is gone, anything is a huge pickoff because you can't replace it.
Yeah, that's massive. In fact, even if he kills like that Overseer, right? He's got to rebuild his lair now, and he doesn't actually have any Overseers on the map anymore. So the detection is weird, because there's been a couple of random Widow Mines out on the map too that have gotten a couple of kills. It's another little thing I like to see there, especially with the armory change.
This guy,
he's taking his money.
Yeah, he really. You know, that's exactly what he's doing. He's
one of my favorite memes.
He's trying to sacrifice some workers too. So. Win-win. That's
a fair point. Oh, look at that Infestor. He's just chilling. He's rolling with the boys. That missile turret's going to ruin his day, though. He's going to do something about that. I think this siege tank might just blow him up in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I love the diligence from uThermal to start dropping those missile turrets. Needs Fungo here. Lambo, that is, but he will not choose to unburrow his Infestors. Neuroparasite is actually deceptively really good also against Cyclones. They kill other Terran units really fast.
Cyclone lock-on only takes like 3 hits to kill another Cyclone. So yeah, they're actually really phenomenal at being used against their own units. I think anybody who's ever played a TVT, Cyclones are scary good against mech units if you don't shoot at them. With that DPS from that lock-on.
Yeah, and you don't shoot at them when they're neuroparasited, right? Like they go down in priority.
Yeah, your units will never shoot at your own units, even if they're neural. You have to manually do it, which then we're getting into like some dark territory there. Ravagers are going to cut off the escape path for these Cyclones. That's a lot of resources that are going to die here for uThermal, but he seems to be able to maintain that big supply lead. He's starting to get out the Liberators, and he has Liberator range, cats, and that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Having that zoning tool is so nice, because it's really hard to throw the biles when they have the range. I don't even know if you can throw biles under Liberators that are sieged in front of you without at least eating 1 or 2 hits.
Yeah, very difficult. Here's where the microbial shroud could come into play, Nate. It's actually not the worst thing in the world.
Microbial what? Microbial what? Are you talking about my bath bombs that are coming in the mail today, Cats? I have no idea what that is.
Well, if you want to go for neurals, you can microbial shroud, and it'll actually take one more shot from the Liberator. So it's something.
I suppose they will. We'll see. Maybe that was Lambo's true 3000 IQ play, was to wait for this moment. I like that he focused lock-ons these useless extractors. He's already thinking about the base trade situation in 20 minutes from now when the map's mined out.
Yeah, that's the next level play.
Gotta kill those
Lambo.
mined out extractors.
He's just remaking a pool now, and the lair just finished to his good fortune, because otherwise he would be in grave trouble.
He's got 2 layers now. He's not taking any more chances. And he's got 2 roach warrens, but he does still actually have his original infestation pit, I think, or maybe he rebuilt this one, but he's going for the hive again too. Yeah, he's going for the hive
he needs it. He needs the vipers really badly.
Yeah, especially with this many liberators. Because did he rebuild the spire? No, so he can't add any more. He just has 5 corruptors to deal with. What do we got? 4 liberators. Good luck, I guess.
Yeah,
I love it. He's taking the gas. He's taking the gas in the bottom right base. No stone left unturned. I love it. I love that he's taking Lambo's 3rd base, or his 4th, whichever one this was supposed to be. I've never seen this happen.
I really like the movement from uThermal as well, like knowing what the edges of creep are and just moving very quickly and effectively on the edge, but not announcing where he's going. And that's what nets him more and more bases, just being careful and always keeping active on the map and continuing to choke his opponent. I mean, this is exactly what's happening this game.
Yeah, I'm going to call out something you mentioned earlier too. The random missile turrets around the map is just, we talk. I think you or TLO was talking about like going for neurals from behind and stuff like that. And as good as we all know, scans are really good, obviously, but having turrets in the back like that to just always have that vision to watch your flank is just, it's invaluable, right? Like it's priceless to have that level of information and vision. And actually kind of worried all of his overlords are over here too. If these cyclones sniff those out, like you could supply block him back to the shadow realm.
Yeah. It's really easy to not have those turrets and then get your entire army knurled before you can react to it and then die. So I love that he has random ones across the map as well. Now Lambo is gonna try to reclaim some of his territory. This army is kind of trapped at this point. Maybe Unburrow the Infestor look for some fungals.
Yeah, see, that's where that high ground thing that we were talking about earlier comes into play, though, right? Like Zerg just doesn't have the same number of options as Terran for trying to push up a ramp with this style of army. The Cyclones would kill an Overseer. He just got two Infestors for free, by the way, that just finished building at that southwest base.
Yeah, really, really cute from uThermal trying to escape with that army, right? Saying, okay, if you're gonna kill the base, I try to escape with my army. But now Lambo has enough on both sides, so this army is cornered from uThermal, and this is gonna be a big win for Lambo. He really needs it. At the same time, uThermal is pulling him as far away as possible, and if you see the retreat, that's because he's pushing onto Lambo's mining base at the moment.
In 5 minutes, someone's going to be asking, where did Lambo spawn this game again? Okay, steals the Cyclone. That's not even the worst thing to do in this situation, though. If you have units that can buffer, just mind control the Cyclones and pull them in one by one. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's even cost effective enough still, because look at the bank uThermal's built up. Look at all the command centers he has in the northeast, by the way. We're going full Field of Dreams over here. If you build it, it will GG. We
really are. And if we look at resources lost, it's Lambo that has been less cost efficient and has less control of the map and less ability to mine it. So yeah, that's where the advantage of uThermal comes. But I mean, these Infestors could really turn everything on its head.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to make probably one of the sickest highlight reel style things that we've done. As much as I love everything that Lambo's done in this game, I think we've reached that point now where just the mech has been too cost effective and there's not enough resources left on the map. I don't know if there's enough minerals left in Lambo's bases to be able to even build an army that could kill uThermal. Like, his whole army has been in Lambo's old base. Like, even if he could kill that force, he then has to go back to the northwest corner, literally the opposite side, to actually get to where the buildings and the infrastructure are before he spends that 5,000 resource split on everything else. Or maybe he just, okay, just steal the SCV and start building his own battle cruisers, maybe.
That would not do it. But yeah, now SCVs are finally being sacrificed, Nate. I mean, this is something that we see Terran players do often earlier, and it just means that uThermal has gotten that much use out of all of those and has been making things happen with smaller armies, right? Poking instead of trying to look for that massive push that many Terran players go for. I would love to see just liberators, turrets, and sit back and wait until your opponent suicides onto you and slowly encroach otherwise.
Yeah, he's finally getting building armor though. Don't worry, cats. Only took what was it? Has been 22 minutes since he got missile turret range. So he's finally going to have those tier 3 static defense units. I don't know.
He really is. I mean, he's adding the sensor towers as well, Nate. I mean, this is what you want to do. I think if you are uThermal, you just identify, if you can identify that you have been trading efficiently and that you have more of the map, this is perfect pretty much, right? I guess technically they are half Cs on the map. Yeah.
Yeah, I
mean, uThermal mind a little bit more of Lambo's.
Okay, cats. This is what I'm going to say. I'm going to make my stupid statement is that he's got 10 orbital commands. Okay, so first of all, that siege tank doing absolutely beautiful work on that base. Just start dropping mules on his mineral patches.
Yes.
Just mine his base out for him. Well, he's got the Liberators sieging this mineral line too now. He's not like Lambo's just running out of options. He's built up a decent bank again, but
oh wow, uThermal.
Oh. That's
amazing. Perfect. I mean, this was such a brilliant move from him. He's going to trade cost effectively against an army that was pinning his army back to make sure it traded cost effectively. So really, really nice move from uThermal. Lambo's going to try to capitalize, and I think this is his last hurrah, but all the tanks are pre-siege. The Infestors have to be pulled back. The Ravagers are going to commit, but a lot of them are going to die, and Lambo is running out of steam very quickly now.
Yeah, biggest problem here, especially as this Greater Spire is going to die. I was going to say, even if he could somehow get like 10 Broodlords out, which could possibly deal with this many Cyclones, he still would then have to deal with, you know, he's got thousands of resources to just build Thors, and we all know how good Thors are versus the Broodlords in these situations, but he loses the tech again. He's been reset so many times in this game, and yeah, well, Cyclones kill bases really fast too, cats.
They sure do. I mean, the trade that uThermal took is the trade that Lambo needed to take in order to more or less bring himself back into the game. And now he's going to be falling further behind. I'm not sure how you recover this. I mean, these Infestors haven't really done much.
This is what makes Mech really good, right? This is why people hate playing against it, because you get into these games where it's a slugfest all match long. But at the end of the day, even if you somehow kill this army and have nothing left over for either player, you're going to have to still get through the leftover tanks, the planetary fortresses, the Liberators, all that, right? Like it's not that simple. And he's going to have at least enough time to rebuild that 50 supply that he could lose in the next fight. But
I mean,
I'm not going to say it's impossible. Like if he lands Fungals onto the Cyclones, like he can kill a lot of supply very quickly and he'll burn through those resources. But it's unlikely, I guess, is probably the more appropriate thing for me to say.
Definitely. I mean, that burrowed Ling in its position, I don't think I've ever seen that before, where it's correct to burrow a Ling at your third to block it.
Stop taking my base! But even this is just even this little bit of resource denial is still big, right? There's like 600 minerals left at this base, and about actually almost 2,000 gas. So as insignificant as that looks,
Lambo can't really easily remake these workers either. He's down under 30, and he has no mules to work with. So
all his overlords are gonna die too.
Oh no!
You can't build anything now.
Oh man, this might just be it.
That's resting Alfredo Fettuccine Tortellini, cats. Unfortunately,
pretty much. Yeah, he's
got a 92 supply cap. He has just enough minerals to build enough overlords to unsupply block himself. That's about it. Unfortunately,
that's the worst possible position, Nate. Is it even correct to build the overlords? I think you know, right? You just lose army is the better thing to do. Lose army.
I don't know what you do here. I don't know. Yeah. That's the thing is, like, there's just it's gonna feel insane because this is one of the biggest maps, but there's just not enough resources left. There's not enough resources on this map to make it work in this situation.
No, it has been. Oh no, not more overlords. Well, oh no.
Yeah, to the Shadow Realm you go. Right. He's gonna neural parasite a bunch of these forces, but he's still in the range of too many Liberators and too many siege tanks. Even though he's gonna kill a lot of this, there's still so much money left for uThermal on the other side.
Yeah, it's a good engagement from Lambo, but it's not good enough is the problem, because he's so far behind. He has to basically do this and be sieged on top of his opponent to have enough to kill every unit that spawns, and that's just not the case. There's barely anything left. 20 workers have died, leaving Lambo with 0, and he will GG out.
Beautifully played game by uThermal, and just a wild one on either side. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get to the conclusion of this series after this short break. We'll be right back. We are back once again, ladies and gentlemen, as we are here for the DreamHack Masters StarCraft 2. We're in the Europe upper bracket. And Cats, this series has, it's been a banger, I believe was the word that we were talking about when we were hyping this up at the start of the day. But currently uThermal leading 2-1 over Lambo.
Yeah, both of these players very evenly matched. They both have had their moments of brilliance and their moments throughout the series where they look like the better player, quite honestly, and that just goes to show how evenly matched they are.
It's been very close. We've had a decent mix now, I think, of strategy. We've had the Hydraling Bane, we've had some Ling Bane Muta, we've had the Bio, we've had the Mech, we've had the Battle Cruiser Rushes, we've had Cloak Banshees, just about everything that you could possibly throw into a best of 5, honestly. And now we're going to go to the really short map, Submarine. You think uThermal, is he going to proxy or no?
I don't know. I really want to see what Lambo does. I would love to see him try roaches or something of the sort on a map like this. I mean, we saw how greedy uThermal was also last game, right? Like going for that very fast BC and the very greedy 3cc behind it. So on a map like this, that's a lot easier to punish. That's what I'm mostly looking forward to.
Yeah, that's a good point. He went 3cc off of 1 gas before he even started his Hellions on Death Aura. We are loading in now to Submarine. And I think based on what you've said, I do kind of agree. He's been going for these pretty aggressive, but also at the same time greedy builds that I do think have been vulnerable to some early pressure. And whether or not Lambo wants to bring that remains to be seen. We do not have workers already crossing the map for uThermal at the start of this one. Speaking of the man in the northwest of the yellow submarine, he is Liquid's uThermal.
And on the bottom right-hand side, still for no team, Satkek. Lambo!
Is that the name of that one? Is that just Sadkek? I have
Sadkek.
Haven't necessarily. I don't think I've improved my modern meme repertoire enough.
That's definitely a Satkek. Yeah, it's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Satkek.
I'm used to seeing Kek W has gained a lot of stock in the Twitch chat market over the last few months. It's been a good investment for me.
Sadkek doesn't even look sad, like maybe a little bit concerned or something like that. But yeah, I love that it's Sadkek and not concerned Kek or something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you also don't want to wear like the most depressing icon that you can have for your pro matches either, right? It's kind of like an in-between there. You know, if you think about it, it's kind of like a judging look. Like your SCV goes into the hatch and you see that face looking at you and it's like, what are you doing here, man? Like, what? Get out of here.
Yeah. I wonder if it has any effect on drops and whatnot. Sometimes I laugh when people like some of your sprays are funny sometimes, for example, like they make me giggle.
Oh yeah, I love using
also like spraying.
uThermal put the spray actually in front of his natural in the last game. Maybe that was his way of warning him that he was going to take that base 30 minutes later.
Yeah.
By the way, we're getting the roaches off the pool first. Worth noting that this is not a standard schmandered build out of Senor Lambo.
Yeah, Lambo going through great lengths to try and deny the scouting SCV, but will not be able to do so. It looks.
Yeah, he didn't see it. He didn't see it.
I mean, that's super important. He's going to see the late hatchery uThermal, and he's not going to know what to make of it necessarily. And these links actually both avoiding the Reaper aptly and will make their way to maybe cause some trouble on the other side. I'm quite liking this for Lambo.
The opportunity is definitely big. He's going to build a second Marine instead of going for the reactor. I actually really like that out of uThermal. He can bring the Marines down the ramp to push these Lings away if he thinks that he needs to. It's hard to be certain how many Zerglings there are, but if he had just built one Marine, then he could have denied this command center for quite a bit longer. The Roaches kill the Reaper too, so he doesn't have to worry about anything poking or prodding him. He just needs to get across the map and start bringing the pain.
Yeah, I think so as well. This is pretty huge for Lambo, and at the same time, I really would have liked for him to wait for the next two links before going and chasing up the ramp, because then you need 3 Marines, right? Like against 4 links. So Lambo a little bit. I think he could have delayed this a little bit better, but now here are the Roaches.
Yeah, and I mean, on their own, just the Roaches really won't be able to do much here. He did kind of stop mining the gas like a crazy amount too, is what it looks like. So he doesn't really have the ability to get a bunch of Ravagers. He could make a second one here off this poke though, and maybe just kill some SCVs while he trades these guys out.
Yeah, I've seen Bly do stuff like this, just kind of like a casual Roach push. I mean, it's doing pretty well, right? And sometimes the turn will have to overcommit, over defend. This wasn't the worst thing in the world, and now you have the Roach deck and the Roaches readily available if there was a Hellion follow-up.
Yeah, I really like that he didn't just turn those 2 Roaches into Ravagers, by the way. I think, like, in my mind, for some reason, I was like, well, I wonder if he'll try to, like, go for the finish there with the SCVs that were killed, but he goes back to focusing on his economy. He recognizes, hey, I killed 6 SCVs. There's going to be some other units coming out, and that Cyclone would have probably been able to push back the Ravagers anyway. So, just good decision-making on the part of Lambo at the start of this game. And we got to see the kind of opener that we talked about, that we wanted to see, something a little bit more aggressive, just because uThermal has been so greedy in this series.
Yeah, keeping him honest, I really like it, but I'm not sure if it was enough, sadly. I mean, his third is a little bit delayed, Lambo's, and uThermal is now poking and prodding with this Cyclone. Also, feeling confident because to open Roaches, you usually don't have link speed, so the link speed of Lambo is late, but Lambo did get link speed relatively early. So uThermal still has to be careful, right? Like relative to or after a Roach attack, this is about as fast as he could have gotten.
Yeah, he won't be able to just sit on the map with 3 units and bully down this third base. Those Lings would punish it pretty badly, and you really don't want to lose a Cyclone early on. You normally don't have a Cyclone this early in a Terran versus Zerg. It's kind of a symptom of the scenario that this game was. But weirdly enough, when he starts building those Hellions, like having one Cyclone mixed in with the Hellions is really nice. But I guess it doesn't matter because it went a little bit too far out on the map again, and it is super dead. Didn't even get the tumor.
Sadly, yeah, a little bit of overconfidence, but I mean, I think that's okay, right? Maybe you don't even expect link speed at all. That's the reveal of the link speed. So, so not the end of the world either. That Cyclone, like you said, was made reactively. Now a Banshee is coming out. No cloak though, right?
No, I don't think he got it. No, it seems like he's just concerned about the possibility of more Roaches, pretty much.
Yeah.
But then he sends it out, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what you think a cloakless Banshee's going to do against.
Well, he just scouted the links,
so.
right? He started the Banshee before seeing the links, so he might now think, okay, like you're playing more defensive. more like a normal transition than a super big roach follow-up or something of the sort.
That's a good point. Yeah, I guess he really maybe just thought that there are actually a bunch of roaches coming his way. And I guess the best case scenario is that he could force out another spore or an earlier overseer than normal. But yeah, he doesn't have cloak. We know as the observers.
Yeah, 2 drones is not too bad for the Banshee, and it's also keeping him safe, like we mentioned. So
it'll always be useful. Yeah, it'll always be useful to have that in this game until, you know, mutas or hydras are attacking you. The Banshee will always be good defensively. And he is getting the Zergling upgrades, getting the Baneling nest. So do you see this going into, is it like do you go like Roachling Bane with speed later, or is he just going to take this back to normal? Maybe like a Spire?
Very difficult to say. If he still plans on adding roaches, I think you could maybe add some reactively, but then you really need the roach speed as well. And Lambo really focused on the upgrades. He's actually ahead of uThermal in upgrades by a decent margin, right? Like by almost half an upgrade. So I think Mute are likely again. A lot of links being made once again.
Okay, let's like to see it. And actually with that lair timing, as you pointed out, he has the resources as these upgrades finish to immediately jump into 2-2 if he wants. He's going to invest in some Banelings. He's thinking about the first bio push that's going to come, and it is bio this game. To be clear,
that's the +1 attack.
Yeah, so there's that too. There's the upgrades.
Carapace. Yeah,
I love it.
Surely he's going to start the +2 Carapace as well. It's too good of an upgrade to not take. There it is. And yeah, I mean, pretty good stuff from Lambo. Doesn't have a Spire yet, but I imagine that's the next thing that he might want to piece together.
I really like this poke from uThermal. If you can manage to get the Hellions out, or at least most of the Hellions out, that's really nice. But like Hellions are so much better at clearing the creep these days. Losing the Banshee would suck. I'd like to send that home, but like just the way that you can open the door with those Hellions, right? So that you don't spend 2 minutes trying to get your Marines across Green Hill Zone.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful position also that he took between the rocks to kind of just hold the choke, because I think that when he backs there and shoots, it looks like he's gonna, you know, basically keep kiting and back one more and shoot. But instead he just stops there, and Lambo kind of kept running into the Hellions for a little bit, expecting that they would move or that maybe he could do it. So very well done by uThermal. Nice position also here.
Somehow there's still a creep underneath that army, which is actually incredible. So the creep is not going to go away, even though he's scanned, but he might be able to still get this hatchery. It's down about almost 50% of its health. He hasn't really committed enough of his units there, so.
Lambo's coming big time, though, from everywhere, and I think it might be enough to dodge this easily. It looks like, though, a lot of the Banings go on the tank. Not the most efficient trade there, but it's going to do it.
Yeah, and I think most importantly, on the end of all of that, not only does he wipe out those power tech units that you're talking about, getting all the siege tanks out, but he saved the base. He didn't get to kill the hatchery. And that creep tumor that somehow survived the scan was an ace component there.
Definitely, but that was more expensive than it needed to be. I think if we look at units lost, it's actually Lambo that has lost a lot more, even though the game has looked pretty decent for him, right? And that's on the back of things like running all the Banelings into the tanks. I mean, that'll make a big difference. You gotta be a little bit careful.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, you killed the tanks, but, you know, using 7 Banelings to kill the tank is not as fun as using 5 Zerglings to just munch on it.
Exactly. Those things are
He's going for the hive, too.
Yeah.
The upgrades in this game have been wild. The tech hit for Lambo has been phenomenal. And I really like when he gets the fast hive in this situation, because it's not just about the upgrades anymore. It's about like being able to get adrenal glands, you know, and then those Zerglings are stupid strong. They're fantastic.
Yeah, I find the map is kind of choky too. Hive units in general will do pretty okay. It's not a particularly long map. It's actually a pretty short map. So, you know, not bad for Broodlords or Ultralisks. Yeah, I love to see it.
So he's got a drop in the main base. The double drop by that third / the fourth area is not going to be able to do too much either. There's the adrenal gland starting, and okay, well, uThermal is starting to really try and stretch out Lambo's army. He's hitting him from 3 positions at once. Those medevacs in the northeast are going to unload. He's got the drop in the bottom left, denying that hatchery, but he's also still got that medevac tucked outside of the main base. So there's a couple of different angles he could try to hit, and oh my god, he's going to kill his hatchery as soon as it starts. Really good reaction time from Lambo to cancel that and not lose the 300 minerals.
Oh, the one Baneling gets focus fired. Insult to injury. He's gonna trade so inefficiently there until uThermal decides that it's enough and picks up So I don't know. The creep spread has been really good for Lambo, worth highlighting, I think, throughout the series. But this game is looking a little bit difficult. uThermal is ahead in supply. He's taking control once again of the economy and the map and clearing the creep. Missing a creep tumor here and there, but overall, he's done a fantastic job, I think.
Yeah, uThermal is really taking advantage of the size of this map, right? You know, you have so much less space to cover, but it makes it easier to push because you only have to kill like 2 tumors, and that clears out a quarter of the space that you need. And you see Lambo's trying to get the queens over there. He's trying to get these positions, but the Marine count is also getting pretty wild. He's got he's got 85 Marines in 6 siege tanks.
Jeez.
Versus 134 Lings and 32 Banes. It's a tier 1 bonanza.
Yeah, and it's strange that Lambo's actually considering taking this base of all bases. I think he's looking to choke uThermal. I mean, he's maybe the best player that I've seen do this with the queens actively whilst pushing, just having them there and continue to spread forward. So he really wants to set up an attack from this position, but I don't know. It looks so difficult. You're gonna have to attack into planetary fortresses and whatnot. This time, uThermal is much more well positioned than the first time that we saw Lambo try this.
Yeah, and he's got this great siege in the northeast, but at the same time, still bringing those drops to the southwest. And you can see those adrenal gland Lings do a pretty solid job, but with the medevac support and with that many forces, he's having a hard time dedicating the specific number of units that he needs to actually take these down. Lambo going for a massive flank, hitting from the northwest and pushing from that south column. At the same time, the majority of the Marines and siege tanks are getting cleaned up. There's still plenty of Banelings to deal with it, but you know what, Cats? No mutas, no hydras. These medevacs, they're all just going to fly away.
Yeah, the army's kind of getting reset, and yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, you look at the aftermath of that fight, and yeah, technically the Zerg cleans up, but if you look at the armies remaining, it's really the Terran that traded more efficiently once again and has all those medevacs remaining. This is exactly, though, what Lambo needs to do if he wants to contest this game, and wow, he is going to be able to do it with his first Ultralisk, really. So that is huge. I mean, if he can keep denying the 4th base, that's his pathway to victory.
Yeah, that's the big Papa Ultralisk, and uThermal's command center is going to be blocked by a hatchery in the northeast, but he did get that drop into the main base to try and pull the army away over there. And now we've got Queen saying, "This is my base. It's mine." But he has another command center actually to retake the original 4th too. The other hard part about how small this map is, I feel like it can be a little bit tricky to protect that 4th because it's almost impossible to take that 4th without it being very close to where the Zerg could rally. And when you're good with the Banelings, Lambo has done a good job of kind of strangleholding that economy a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, this creep position, after wiping that one army, I didn't realize how strong the position would be for Lambo, who is going to jump in. And I was going to say, before the PF is a really good time to do it. So he's going to find that timing perfectly, and he's going to push away uThermal from that 4th. He needs to continue to do this. This is the pathway to victory. I love it.
Yeah, these space cows are absolutely making it happen over here, Cats. A handful of Marauders is not enough to stop these tier 3 juggernauts from ripping and tearing through the majority of the army. And you might say, hey, the Ultras died, but at what cost? He somehow did not kill the planetary in all of this, but he did lose the entire army and the majority of his workers, down to just 36 SCVs. Good luck scanning the creep if you're going to try to mule up to recover from that.
Yet still, I can't help but think that the main target of that attack must have been, or should have been, the planetary fortress. I thought, we should have thought the Ultralists are pushing out, and they're buying space for whatever is killing the planetary fortress, but then the planetary fortress was not killed.
Yeah, I did think he was going to kill the PF. Actually, this gets a little bit interesting here because the Banelings are quite a bit behind where those Zerglings are, and if he can sort of keep the bio alive through this fight, the opportunity is there.
Those can go to the mineral line too. Oh, there they go.
Well, the queens show up. They're gonna help try to pinch this one in. There we go. GG. It's all tied up here between Lambo and uThermal. And okay, we may. I mean, I don't know how much better Hero Marine versus Rainer could possibly be, but this might have been the match that we needed to put as our most hyped up of the day. Because holy crap, this is wow, just wow. We're getting everything.
That last attack, Nate, I didn't see it coming. He just kind of moved in with a bunch of Lings, Banes. It wasn't anything particular. He didn't wait for the Ultras like I might have if you're pushing with the Queens, for example, right? So I really like it that he kind of smelled water and didn't even bother with the PF, just went for the army, capitalized, and managed to seize this victory for a 2-2. What a series.
Yeah, I guess that really does say a lot about the determination and the confidence from Lambo, that you and I are looking at it like, oh no, is it bad that he missed the PF? But it turns out Lambo won the game even faster because his strategy was, well, I don't need to kill this base if I get to the soft underbelly of the third, and there's nothing there to protect the economy and some of the production that he had there. And I mean, just really, really good decision making, because I don't think every Zerg player would have done that. I think a lot of people would have tunnel visioned on the planetary, and even killing that, maybe it wouldn't have been enough, because he actually did still have that other command center just floating around that he could have maybe eventually put there. And then it's like, okay, well now you got to kill another planetary. But Lambo's just played fantastically. And you want to talk about a map to finish a best of 5 TVZ on, Cats? It's Ice and Chrome coming up to decide it.
Ice and Chrome. I love this map. It's gonna be a banger, Nate. I mean, it's a best of 5. We're in the 5th game. 2 players that are completely evenly matched. I don't know what Aligulak had to say on the matter. Maybe slightly favored to uThermal because he won the last series or something of the sort. But in my mind, they're 50-50, especially with how well Lambo has been doing lately, defeating Serral in his previous match. So, I mean, he's on fire. Both of these players are. And now we're loaded into the game. Let us bring you guys in.
What a phenomenal series this has been. Absolutely delivered. Ladies and gentlemen, this is StarCraft. In the top right, we have the blue Zerg player just tying things up. He is Lambo.
Wow. And in the bottom left-hand side, please, band, give an intro to this man like he deserves. The best intro music ever for Liquid uThermal. Oh, wow. Did they actually play the best one? Oh, thank you, band.
I always dreamed that at some point the esports meme and all that gets big enough that we eventually turn into like one of those nightly talk shows or whatever, where for the player intros, we just have a live band there that just plays like a 15-second riff for all those moments and for the victories, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Get us like the Conan O'Brien band that's just waiting there on the side for whenever we need them.
Yeah, you can interact with them. They're good. They're good to interact with. To be like, oh, nice job, and then they thumbs up and stuff.
Yeah, they give you the little boom when you make a bad joke.
Yeah,
that's the dream. That's the dream. And as far as the dream for this map goes, I think there's a pretty common sentiment that if you play Terran and you don't play Mech on this map, you are a little bit silly. It is easily the best map, one of the best maps we've had in a while. I think Eternal Empire is still better than it, but that map was vetoed for pretty obvious reason. I don't think any Zerg would want to play on Eternal Empire versus Terran. That should be. You think that should always be the veto, right, for best of 5? If you're going to take one map out, ZVT.
Very difficult for me to say. I don't mind Eternal Empire so much, but I can see how it's really annoying to break into 3 base, and the 4th for Terran is really strong as well to take, right? Very difficult for Zerg to defend that 4th with the rich Vespin Geyser on that map. So I see a lot of CVTs end with Zerg not defending that 4th base, basically.
Yeah, I always felt like that's like the hardest thing, is holding on to that. And then on this map, the Terran player can get those 4 bases with relative ease, especially versus Zerg. You don't need to commit too much to the planetary to kind of lock down either the top side or that bottom side later on. And that is one of the reasons why we see mech. But another thing to consider as well, you have a ton of airspace on this map, just like many of the others. You can kind of hide around that main base. You can hide between that 3rd and that natural a little bit. Behind the 3rd, it's not easy to chase anything down, and you've got multiple avenues of attack to bring either those Hellions in or, battlecruiser rush, etc. I think the build that most of us talk about. But you know what, Cats, throw it all out the door. We're seeing the most old school build right here, actually. I thought he just exhumed this one from the ancient texts, it looks like. We're getting a Byun 211.
Yeah. If you're coming back from a 2-year break, don't worry, this is pretty rare. But yeah, I mean, at some point it was what you would see every single CVT, right?
It used to be the only build for like a solid couple months. After Byun won so many championships doing one build against Zerg players that this was it. Nobody did anything else.
And yeah, I find that it was the one build for way longer than 2 months, it felt like. And,
yeah, probably longer than that, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's somewhat of a staple still, but not quite as much. Cirque's kind of figured out when to get the units. I mean, the stim timing kind of changed things up where you can do a little bit trickier things and show up a little bit earlier, but people are just so very used to this build that it's difficult to die to it. Though,
the strength of the strategy here, I think the strength of the strategy here usually comes out of you just don't expect it anymore. So you don't, you know, some of the muscle memory of the typical defense, because Zergs did get really good at holding it, but as you play against it less, you know, it's, you know, the less push-ups you do, the less good you are at doing them. And it's the same thing with defending Terran build orders. If nobody ever does it anymore, then you kind of lose a little bit of the sharpness at being able to block it. But these Lings are going to poke in and they see a lot of Marines, but he's opened up with this big roach opener, and I'm guessing he's hoping to do some damage while he's defending back home, but it's going to be tricky if all the roaches are on the other side of the map too.
Yeah, I was actually kind of liking Lambo's position for holding this type of attack with the roaches. And right now, I have no idea who's going to come out ahead because neither player is going to have their army ready in position to deal with the other players. uThermal will have the Wolof to buy time, but Lambo will have the better reinforcements, I would argue.
Yeah, I think the only thing here I do really like, he's going to bring the SCVs back up into his main. He did finish. I think he finished one of his siege tanks. He has it sieged up in his main to defend against his roaches. As long as he doesn't lose the SCVs, just raise the depot if they do get through them. But he's going to lose the drones at the third base and the third itself. With that scan, he can pick off creep tumors en route to the expansion. And just Queens alone are not going to be able to stop this cat. All the roaches just move like command into the Marines.
No transfuses either. I think Lambo knows it. I think Lambo's given up and he's just processing the loss at this point. GG.